So today we're talking about a video game that pushed the medium forward during the late 90s. It had intense espionage action, exciting gunfights, and was really unlike anything we had seen before. I'm talking about Winback for the N64.
No, you're wrong.
I just want to say, fuck the Master Collection.
This is bad.
Yeah, I played this on the Master Collection. You did not, right?
So I was gonna play this on the Master Collection. I was like, there's a new Metal Gear coming out. As a sign of good faith to Konami, I'm gonna boot up the Master Collection and play Metal Gear Solid Integral on there. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that at all. So I couldn't play Metal Gear Solid at all. Every single time I've started up the Master Collection, it seems like there's another issue. And this issue is the biggest of all, because I could at the very least say I used to be able to play every game in this collection, regardless of the issues I came across. But this time, I couldn't do it. It won't let me play Metal Gear Solid anymore. I quit back to the launcher, that didn't work. I restarted the game, that didn't work. I restarted my PC, that didn't work. I reinstalled the game, that didn't work. Instead, look, it just keeps me in the emulation menu. It won't let me quit.
So yeah, this is a weird collection. I had my own problems with this. I get to the Rex fight, and when Gray Fox shows up to fight it, the game crashed multiple times to the point where I was not sure if I was going to be able to actually beat this game, but I tried updating the drivers and it crashed another 2 times after that, but then on the 3rd time it started working again. So I don't know what's up with the Master Collection.
What's up is that Konami pushed this thing out the door well before the developers had something that was ready. That's what's up. Yeah, so I booted up DuckStation. I played Metal Gear Solid Integral through that. Not a single problem the whole time. So, fuck the Master Collection. I really tried giving it a fair shake, but it decided, no, you weren't gonna play this game that you bought.
I hope everyone's enjoying the live broadcast.
Yeah, so we played Metal Gear Solid Integral, the Japanese release that comes with the Master Collection. This specific version only had a Japanese release, though. It had a few changes, it had a few new additions that the initial release didn't have, including the VR missions disc.
So I've played this game a couple of times, but it's been a minute since the last time I played this. I think the last time I played Metal Gear Solid 1 was when they did the PS3 collection.
Oh, I've played this game over 100 times easily. This thing is kind of burned into my memory forever.
I ask you this just about every episode, because we sure play a lot of old games on this show, but do you remember your first experience with Metal Gear Solid 1 back in the day as a wee lad?
I sure do. Yep, I'd just gotten the PlayStation. It came with a demo disc. Metal Gear Solid was on there, and I played that demo. I remember it has the whole opening section, and you can play all the way up until you meet the DARPA chief. At which point, the thing happens, and then the demo ends. And I remember verbally going, no! Because I wanted to know what happened next.
So going back to this, it reminded me okay, this is not this is a pretty short game. And while I would not really call this a hard game per se, it is kind of a dick in places, and it's very easy to die.
One thing about this game is I find it similar to the original Metroid, in that it is a very good, well-made game that is a lot less enjoyable once its sequels arrived.
Yeah, because they all improved on just about every single aspect.
Yeah, because anything you like about Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 give it to you way better. At least in terms of gameplay and, functionality.
You know, I remember reading in magazines about like, oh, if you want to get Gray Fox with the red and blue suit, you have to beat this game 3 times. And at the time I was like, beat a game 3 times, but it must be gigantic. And then going back to this game as an adult, you're like, oh, there's a lot of padding in here, and even then it's not a particularly long game.
Yeah, when you take out the cutscenes, Metal Gear Solid is actually a very, very short game.
You can tell this was like sort of like a 3D engine bolted onto a 2D overhead game, but they still made it feel immersive. The idea of taking a third-person video game and being able to flip back and forth between the overhead perspective as the player and then the first-person perspective as the character did something that like really nothing else was doing at the time.
So, Metal Gear Solid did have a lot of very innovative and clever uses of its hardware and design. It really wanted to make use of that stereo option. Remember when stereo was the thing? On the higher difficulties, you don't have the radar, right? So, in the Hind D fight, you can go into first-person mode and just listen, is the helicopter to your left or your right? And that's how you can track it.
Put your controller on the floor.
Another thing this liked to do in terms of immersion was have the controller rumble as a way to communicate with the player. There's a Psychomantis thing, but what I actually really liked was after the torture sequence, Naomi tells you to put the controller up to your arm, and it vibrates, and that feels really good because after you're hitting the button all the time, your arm feels terrible.
It's very playful the way the game sort of breaks the fourth wall.
There are no continues, my friend.
I didn't get into science to make nuclear weapons, you know.
That's what all scientists say.
On the topic of the voice acting, it's very good. It's not even just for the time, just in general. Though back in 1998, you never heard voice acting that good. It's not just the performances are well delivered; they are readable. You can tell when someone is lying. You can tell when someone is sad. You can tell when someone is exhausted. You can all hear it. Like there's very deliberate direction going on there, to a degree that even today, I don't hear that too much. The final encounter with Sniper Wolf still hits hard. This is a really good scene.
But like, yeah, we had never heard prior to this characters talking to each other out loud for this length of time. And I want to emphasize length of time because I know it's cliche. I know everyone said it before. But going back to this game, you were like, wow, these characters are talking for a while.
Yeah. I think I said I recorded about 20-25 minutes of dialogue and cutscenes just from like the briefing tapes and the intro sequence. You know, before you even click new game, I had 20-25 minutes of just talking. That's more than entire games had back then.
What was that noise?
Metal Gear Solid 1's a very atmospheric game.
It sure is, especially when you're just kind of walking around the base. It really sells you on that whole, like, concrete chamber vibe.
Yeah, one thing I thought this game did well was its sound design. From, like, the sound of, like, your codec beeping, the echoey quality of the environments you're in, or, if, you know, when you're indoors. When you're outdoors, sometimes there's howling winds.
I think it is very solid sound design in this. I'd say it's probably better than the other Metal Gears, frankly.
Don't get careless.
So speaking of questions that I ask every episode, how do you feel about recommending this game to maybe someone that hasn't played Metal Gear Solid, the first one, before?
If you're new, if you've never played a Metal Gear before and you want to get in, I honestly think Metal Gear Solid is the best place to start. You should just play for Metal Gear Solid and then the rest of the games in release order. Don't try and group them by chronology. Don't try and group them by main character. Just release order, because then you have a really nice through line to see the game progress mechanically. and develop thematically, because playing them chronologically does absolutely nothing. It does not matter at all. Release order is a very clear step-by-step development, and you see how the series progresses, and you can feel those steps in progression. That means every time you go to the next one, it feels better. So Metal Gear Solid, it's rough, but if you're interested in the series, I do recommend it as a starting place.
Playing this in chronological order would just be, it would be hysterical. It'd be like, okay, take out your PSP and play Portable Ops now.
I've seen people genuinely say, play it in chronological order, and it's the worst thing you could do for Metal Gear Solid if you're brand new. I do think because of this game's age and its very uniquely Metal Gear Solid conventions that had not yet been fleshed out, it is kind of rough to start with, but it's not some kind of game that feels terrible. You just have to adapt, and when you do, it's fine. Like, there's nothing particularly egregious or offensive about it. It's just not the usual way you'd play a video game. So I think if you're used to modern sensibilities, it might be awkward at first, but it's nothing you can't just get used to.
Metal Gear Solid, you know what? It's a cozy old pair of slippers, and maybe sometimes those slippers have a few extra holes in it, and they're the other slippers that came out later on that had way better features, but it's still a cozy old pair of slippers.
That was terrible.